The MoneroTopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
All right.
All
Share
right.
my screen.
Tux, how's my sound? I just turned off echo cancellation because I think I was getting like that delay thing.
You sound fine. Perfectly fine.
Okay. All right.
Yep. All right, guys. Here's my very serious TA on Kraken Pro.
Nice.
Since we did a show last week, there's a lot that's actually happened in the past 2 weeks with the market. It's been pretty bouncy. As we see around the 20th, everything just took a massive dump. And Monero's was pretty massive itself. It went from around 200, sitting around 200 at a resistance point, going below that several times, that finally just breaking that resistance and going all the way down, touching 166, 167, but quickly rebounding back up. If you caught some here, this was a very, very good time to.
No, wait, that was before. Was that right before the Roger Ver interview? Or that was a different.
No, this was after that. There's been.
Oh, that was that. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So you see, it did one of these. I guess this is almost a BART, possibly. Oh, that was the real BART right there. But then it sort of did it again. It came up and then it went rapidly down during the rest of the market, but it did rebound quickly. And it's been sitting around this 185 to 200 range for the past week, since the beginning of the holidays. And right now it's in this current trend going up a bit, nicely, trying to get back to 200 and hopefully stay there, but we'll see. And Bitcoin currently is actually a bit lower, and it's not really going up like Monero is right now. It's kind of sitting at 94, 95K, going in between those. So yeah, see, it came down a little bit more over time, a little bit of a slower pullback, and then it quickly went back up to 100K on Christmas Day. Had a nice little Christmas pump. And then it came back down. I was like, Christmas is over. We're going back. And right now, Bitcoin it's been sitting around 94K. See if I can make this a little bigger. Not sure if I can. Oh, well. And then, yeah, so it would be nice if Monero closes this week above 200. That would be great. If not, it's still doing pretty good. It's still sitting in a higher range than it has been historically. That was a little bit nerve-wracking seeing it crash so rapidly during that pullback, that major pullback. But it did rebound very quickly as well. Yeah, so there's if you catch these, I mean, there's been some great times to catch these flash crashes and buy up at very, very good prices. So if you did that, good job. If not, there's still time. Don't worry. Monero's it's got a long ways to go. But yeah, that's mostly Monero over the past couple weeks. I can't really tell you why anything crashed, or I just know it did. Body will have to tell you next week. But Zcash also had a crazy.
Oh.
I mean, look at this ridiculousness. Literally a 2x in the span of less than a week. It did a 2x. It went down 50%, then it went up 100%, and then it went back down 50%. So if you play Zcash, you can make some quick, pretty large gains. It's a lower cap. It's a lot lower cap than Monero. It's been having some interesting, even more crazy price swings than a lot of other cryptos have. So, yeah.
I mean, it's one of the it's not delisted everywhere, right? So people can play around with it.
Not as much as Monero. It's still definitely got some delistings, but not as much as Monero. And it's
Mhm.
still a privacy coin that people are speculating on.
Yeah, it's a lot more accessible. Like I always say, Monero has yet to be listed on a centralized exchange in New York for New Yorkers to access.
That's true.
Zcash
Is
has always
Zcash
been
available
available. Yeah,
in New
yeah.
York? Okay.
It's on Gemini and yeah, it's available in New York. Is it on Coinbase? It is on Coinbase. Yeah, it's on Coinbase too. So
Yeah, Monero's never getting on Coinbase. That ship sailed years ago.
and then they had, with the whether you could send it to a transparent address or a Z address or
Yeah, I think that plays to its benefit and to its part of its downfall, because what I notice is that a lot of services will implement Zcash and support it. Like, oh, you can pay for this in Zcash, but they only do it with the T addresses. Now, if you're coming from the transparent pool, the privacy should theoretically still be really, really good because of what they use for sender privacy. But a lot of things just choose to, because it's easier, because it's Bitcoin. It's like a fork of Bitcoin. They'll just use the transparent addresses only for their service, not the shielded ones.
yeah,
So
but the vast majority of Zcash transactions are not shielded, right?
yeah, the vast majority. So like you got to make sure that when you take your Zcash out of wherever you get it, you shield it. And then theoretically you should still be okay. I can't speak directly to that, but theoretically you should be okay spending to transparent addresses as long as it was in the shielded pool. I can't tell exactly how good the privacy is. But the sender privacy is technically better than Monero.
Yes,
But
for
yeah,
now.
that's just the line choice they had that I think is both a pro and a con at the same time.
Which is the pro and the con? I missed your thought.
Well, I think it's both a pro and a con at the same time, having T addresses, right?
Oh yes.
Having that in there.
Yeah, I mean it was a sacrifice, and Monero has taken the other path, right, where it's unwilling to sacrifice its fungibility in any way, right?
Which I think a
So
lot of people preferred that,
Mhm.
as we've seen how the communities have grown.
Yes.
But yeah, yep.
And I do think I do think we'll start to see relistings of Monero at some point. Whether we bottomed out in terms of the amount of delistings, I do not know. But at some point, I think we'll start to go in the other direction, especially as we see things loosen up here in the U.S. in terms of policy, and that will loosen things up globally. Obviously, Europe, it seems to be taking the other direction with MiCA regulations coming into effect. But Trump is looking to compete. If he sees Europe handling crypto in a way where it's not allowing it to flourish, he's going to see that. He sees it as an opportunity. He's an opportunist. He wants to grow the economy in any way he can. He wants to win, right? And so I think he has no problem in reducing crypto regulations here in the U.S. At least I think he's motivated for multiple reasons to do so.
Yeah, and hopefully that
And
new those IRS rules will be challenged before they take in effect 2027. We'll look at that during the news segment.
But I do think, yeah, you've been trying to bring this up a couple times in the last couple episodes. Like, I think now is the time to try to focus on getting Monero, relisted on some exchanges, or even getting Monero listed for the first time in places like, like on Coinbase in New York, or I think
Potentially
now is
going
the time
into
to
the
strike.
next year. We'll
Yeah.
see what happens with the crypto industry. The Trump admin should supposedly be better for that. We'll see how good that is. Does that extend to everything, or is it going to be like a weird Bitcoin maximalism
Hmm.
in preference? Only transparent coins. But we'll see. It seems like there's decent rhetoric around self custody and being able to hold your funds and do what you want with that. Whereas the IRS wants you to pay taxes for every fucking transaction you make, no matter where it happens. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it goes well. Maybe it sets a better precedent and gives the ability to relist Monero, which is funny because Monero they're never forced to delist Monero. Maybe there was some backroom stuff from the banks happening.
Yes.
We don't know.
And with the
But they were
Zcash,
technically by law never forced to
yeah,
delist Monero. They just did it.
it always felt like there was something going on too with the Zcash people. Like you had these Silicon Valley Zcash investor
Yeah, I
guys
mean they're more connected.
who controlled
They've
the
got
exchange.
money.
A lot of them, yeah, were connected directly to the founders of the exchanges, right? They were the same people, same group of people. Some of them were invested in both in Zcash, and they were some of the early investors in these exchanges, and kind of trying to like dictate what they do in a way that would hurt Monero, but benefit these other ones, right? So I don't think it's that conspiratorial. I mean, I've been watching this for a very long time, for many years, and all the dots seem to connect. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, you have these people that are supposed to be like pro-privacy, these people that are out there talking about exactly what Monero is without mentioning the word Monero. And it's like, why? Why are you doing that? All right? It's like, why would you go out of your way to do that? They have to. They're personally incentivized to do so, which is why. But I do think now could be a good time, and I don't know. I'm thinking about maybe trying to push an initiative. Where Zcash really has Monero beat is in its centralization, right? It's centralized in ways that give it advantages. So that's another advantage, that Zcash has over Monero, is in the sacrifices it's made with its centralization. So there's an organization that runs Zcash, and they coordinate, and they have money, they have funding, right? And it's kind of run a little bit like a corporation. And when you have an organization like that, you can get things done. You can work together to hire attorneys, to hire lobbyists, to contact, like Zcash is working with Coin Center, with what's the name of it? It's Coin Center, right? The crypto
Yeah,
lobby
so.
group. Like they engage with them. Monero doesn't, because there is no Monero group to reach out, right? There is no
contrary
organization.
to those points, Monero has way more reach. Monero is the used one, the one that's actually more used. And I will say, considering how decentralized Monero is as a project, it actually works pretty damn well. And things do get funded. Now, getting stuff done sometimes has been a problem. And there's been bad actors with like shitty CCSs. But for the most part, considering what it is, it works pretty well. I would say.
Yes.
So
but the overall general point I'm trying to make is we say
they have the ability to push things legally more easily because of their ties and their group and their corporation. Yeah, I agree with that sense.
Right. And if we did want to, like, obviously the meme in Monero is like, oh, we don't want to be on exchanges. I do kind of think that's cope in some ways, right? I see the benefits, but I think ultimately there's a lot of benefits with being accessible to the normies.
I mean, I think it's two parts. Like the Binance thing is definitely like a no, right? Like with what Binance was doing with very clear fraud and insane fractionally reserving XMR, like not really holding, just selling fake Monero, right? And then not being able to make up for that for days on end when they delisted Monero. That's like a big negative of being on exchange like Binance. So if the exchanges, let's just assume they all did what they were supposed to, they were all totally fair, then yeah, it would be nice to have Monero be on all the exchanges. It would be more accessible. But seeing what they do and how they will price suppress Monero, it's unfortunate and makes me reconsider. Be like, yeah, I think there's a balance there. Like I think Monero and Kraken is a really strong one. Kraken's one of the better exchanges. We'll see how they continue to go. But I think it's sort of a mixed bag. There's pros and cons to it. It's like, yeah, if it's not on all the main exchanges, like people can't buy it, but then they don't have any ability to do fishy stuff, which we know a lot of them want to. But then not being on there, it's like people constantly ask, like, how do you get it? I can't buy it on Coinbase, I can't buy it on Robinhood, And I mean, the main answer right now is to buy like Litecoin and swap, right? Which is still relatively easy for people to do. But we still have holdouts like Kraken And in Europe actually has better options than the US. Europe has DFX, right? Low fees. They have like low KYC for under like 900 euros. So there's still options, but I think it's better that Monero honestly isn't on an exchange like Binance. If it makes total honest, like I'd prefer if Monero
Yeah, yeah.
wasn't
Hmm.
on Binance.
I don't
Coinbase, I don't know.
know. I don't know, man. I don't know if I agree with you there. Like when I was down in Argentina, right? One of the most amazing things about it was you can go in these cuevas and you can exchange basically any currency for any other currency, and it's like, and it's not official, right? But they're very accessible, so you could effectively go to one of these cuevas. You could show up with U.S. dollars, and or you could show up with Monero, right? You could show up with Monero. You can send them Monero, and they'll give you local pesos or U.S. dollars is really what they'll give you. But now with the delisting of Monero on Binance, like the Cuevas down there don't have access to Monero to now exchange it. Like that's a big hit. Like you've now taken Monero and have cut it off of.
So they were using Binance as their liquidity provider.
Yes, yes. Now I don't know if there's some other option that they're using now, but I know that's what they were when I was down there. I probably follow up with Andres on that, but that was like that was a big hit, right? So like, oh, okay, it's great that it's not on Binance. They can't create paper Monero, but now potentially you've knocked out all these cuevas that were on ramps and off ramps between Monero and cash without KYC, right? You get what I'm saying? So there's
Yeah, I mean it's it's kind of a hard, like, in a way. I hope that the listings will ultimately lead towards Monero becoming more accessible outside of the exchanges, because I mean that's the real goal, right? So like we've got
yes,
dexes on the way like
Sarai.
Sarai, which should become a decentralized, safer, hopefully a cheaper way to like swap like Ethereum, Bitcoin to Monero, and the other way around.
Hmm. Well, let
And
me ask you this, because I am thinking about putting some effort towards getting Monero, like trying to get Monero listed on exchanges here in New York. Maybe it's even an effort to get New York to drop the bit license. I do think politically could be the time too, not even just on a federal level, but on a state level here in New York. I think there could be that political will to like eliminate the bit license. If they eliminated the bit license here in New York, then exchanges would really have no
Kraken might
reason.
actually come back to New
Yeah,
York,
Kraken would come back to
because
New York.
Kraken is the only U.S. major exchange that sells Monero, but they exclude New York because it's too much to deal with. They don't want to deal with that, the extra
Exactly.
requirements, which it's like the supposed Bitcoin capital of the world is like the worst in terms
Exactly.
of crypto regulations and having licenses.
So if I were to start that initiative trying to eliminate the bit license here in New York, do you think that would be a something worthy to spend my time on? You think the Monero community would be interested in me pursuing those efforts, or there would be people
Yeah,
that
I think
like,
I mean I think it
why are
would
we?
be something that it would interest like a lot like all the crypto. I don't think anyone actually wants like the bit license. Like no one in crypto actually wants it.
Mhm.
So I'm sure
Yeah, that's the
everyone would
other thing
back
too.
you.
It
Just
would be a unifying, right? So like, rather than saying like trying to get Monero listed, my thought is try to get the bit license eliminated, because then we're unifying all the cryptos towards that effort. So I don't know. I'm thinking of trying to like maybe officially pursue that. Maybe raise some funds, create a group, kind of a political group, and try to
lobby the
push
New
that
York
initiative.
State Congress to remove the
Yeah,
bit license.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know people. I know who I need to talk to.
Yeah, you did run for
So
Congress in was like 2020. So
yeah, and
you've got some connections, you know, some people.
there could be, this could be an issue that could be part of the governor's race here in New York. And maybe it's time we have a Republican governor again in New York. And I think if we were to get a Republican governor, I could see them being on board with wanting to eliminate the bit license.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing to explore. I don't know what
Yeah,
all that would entail with that. You know a lot more
yeah.
about that than I do, but
Okay. Just throwing out ideas. Trying
That
to
would
get feedback.
bring the XMR accessibility back in one way, as Kraken would probably come back to New York State, I imagine.
Exactly.
If they didn't have the bit license, because that's, to my knowledge, that's the main reason why they don't.
Yes.
They just
is
don't
exactly
care
why they're not
to
here. Yeah.
deal with that insanity and extra expense. So
Ben Lawsky was the guy who created it. That was like in 2014, 2015.
wow,
And then
they cut it off as
he
a niche
went
pretty early on.
Yeah, and then he left the government, right? And then he went and worked and basically consulted and on helping people obtain the bit license.
That's insane.
It's
He
like,
created it's like you create your problem, then you sell the solution, right?
yeah. A
Yeah.
smart guy in a devious way, and he completely like fucked up crypto adoption in New York as he did it. Like, what an asshole. Complete asshole. All right. So Tux, I guess you did price. Do we want I see we have Tatiana, so maybe we jump.
We
do-
can go ahead
get in the
and
wave?
switch to the
Yeah,
guest segment next.
let's bring her up and then we
Let me
can
make
do
sure
news
there's no
after.
comments need to respond to. The crash was the OKX listen. Oh yeah, that's probably the first. I mean, there was like a market pullback, but this one was definitely more harsh due to the OKX relisting, but it rebounded pretty quickly. And now Monero's sitting pretty good. It's sitting pretty good. Like Solana had some pretty high points, like Solana's sitting quite a bit low compared to its highest point over the past couple weeks. Solana and XMR have been battling recently, and Solana flipped Monero for a while, and Monero's flipped Solana again. So obviously they're totally two different things. It's just funny comparing their price because they're so close to each other. And Solana has a much larger user base and audience, yet Monero is still worth more.